Today, we're weighing in on Chazeen Pemberton's Weigh In. Hey, everybody, I'm Maureen Aladdin, and this is my podcast, Weighing In on the Weigh In, where I speak to dynamic women behind the scenes in the entertainment industry and find out what they did to land their current career position. Okay, so funny story. I was working on a project and Chazeen came up in my IG feed. I said to myself, let me text her. We scheduled a call and realized while chatting that we had no idea how we met. But her number was in my phone, so it was the weirdest thing. At any rate, I'm so excited she's here on the show today. Chazeen is a New York-based creative, best known for her contributions to broadcast, television, and digital media. Collaborating with Music Choice, Complex, BET, and Samsung as a producer, speaker, and host has positioned her to work on projects featuring the likes of Cardi B, DJ Khaled, Selena Gomez, Lecrae, Carrie Underwood, Balvin, and much more. Often known in social circles for her rich resourcefulness and easygoing insights, Chazeen recently developed CHAZ CHATS, a quarterly event series where she and guest panelists discuss fun facts on professionalism, fitness, and faith from the POV of a millennial mindset. Put a face to this beautiful creative on IG at Hey Chazeen. That's HeyChazeen. Welcome to the show, Chazeen.
Hey, thank you for having me. And
I
thank you for
can't
the
believe
compliment. I appreciate
you're
it.
welcome. I can't believe the year is almost over. Obviously, it wasn't the new decade we were all expecting, but I feel like
Hmm.
a lot of people use this time to really reflect, reassess, and reclaim their grasp on
Absolutely.
what really matters. And then there's the other side of that where after getting used to quarantine life, we seem to return to being busy and distracted. So, what has the year been like for you?
What has the year been like? Well, there's one side, that most of the world has experienced, obviously, like the confusion, like what the heck is going on, and then there's the all of the emotions that came with, the passing of George Floyd, or George Floyd's murder, rather,
Yeah.
and just all you know, the movements that we had going on. And then personally, there was a lot of self-reflection. There was a lot of time with God. I've done the most fast this year that I've ever done, and then it's been a great opportunity to lay a new foundation without distractions.
So, how are you feeling about everything at this point? Do you feel confident in the new direction or the new foundation that you've now established?
Extremely. I think my biggest blessing this year has been listening to God. I really
Yes.
believe that the formula is obedience.
Mm-hmm.
Obedience is like the main thing. Even if your faith isn't 100% there, faith times obedience is the formula. But like, if you can't do that, like, just obedience at the very least has gotten me the blessings that I've seen this year.
Yeah. Because it almost is pretty much equal to discipline if you think about it, because
Hmm.
you have to be disciplined in order to be obedient. Well,
For sure.
I want to get into everything with you, but I like to start with humble beginnings. So, where are you originally from and what's your background?
I am from Providence, Rhode Island. If there's any Rhode Island people out there listening, what up? We're the smallest state. uh, and my parents are from St. Kitts and Nevis, another small place. So if anybody else is out there, from St. Kitts,
Where is that?
it's in the Caribbean, it's West Indian. So it's two very small islands, sister islands to be exact. So my mom is from Nevis and my father
Okay.
is from St. Kitts.
Okay. I've heard of Nevis and St. Kitts. Okay. I want to get into career with you. You, like me, are a producer. What inspired you to
Yes.
become a producer?
Being a producer is, funny enough, my second career, and very different from what I thought I wanted to be. Like when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a dancer. So I moved to New York to dance. And when I say dancer, I mean like dance for Beyonce, background dancer, hip hop
Wow.
dancer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, girl. And I moved here to do that. I studied marketing to, please my parents. But then while I was in school, I used to like host a lot of events and parties. And so, I was really good at getting people out. So I was like, hey, let's keep doing this. There was a point in college where, funny, as I mentioned, Beyonce, she is the one. that helped
Mm.
make the change. I had made it to the second round of Beyonce's Audition for, I
Okay,
forgot
so
the name of the,
you're a dancer.
used to be. I don't want you to, invite me to a class and then you see my moves and it ain't quite what it used to be. But I can hold it down on a dance floor as of now. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
But yeah, I made it to the second round, was so happy, but I totally flubbed it. Like, long story short, I had a dance team at the time in Rhode Island that I had started, sparked by the interest of that. I think we started a little bit before Bring It On, that movie. And
Mhm.
everybody started dancing.
Mhm.
And I was so excited to have them in New York. These were in my clubbing days. I was like, you guys gotta go, come out to this club. You gotta come out and check out Avalon. And then
Mhm.
we overslept and we got to Beyonce's. I know it sounds horrible. Do not judge me, those who are listening.
Oh, so
But
you were late? Is that the reason?
I was late. I
Oh.
literally walked in as got in as the last person was going. And funny enough, it was a dance member, an old dance member of mine from another dance group that I was in, who still dances for Beyonce.
Oh,
I forgot her
really?
name. Shoot, Danae.
Okay.
Yeah, great, incredible dancer. She's always been an amazing dancer. But yeah, at that point, I was just like, okay, we need to get serious. We need to buckle down. So I started making a list because that's what I like doing.
Mhm.
Okay, you need to start taking these classes. You need to do this, that, and the third. And as I was making the list, I realized I don't want to do this.
Wow.
So passion, that meant the passion had left. And so here I was, senior year in college, and
Mhm.
I decided to pursue events because, like I said, I was good at it and I enjoyed it. But I was doing corporate event planning as my main job. And then I was doing like hosting parties and events via a website that I launched, thepre-game.com. Got tired of that because I wanted to more so do events like what I was doing for my company, but couldn't get
Mhm.
sponsorships. I think right before we ended it, we got like a great sponsorship. But by that point, once again, I was just kind of over it. And so I recall my roommate, I'm sorry, I'm skipping a part of the story actually. In the meantime, I had launched a YouTube channel and I
Okay.
was hosting a show called What Would a Man Do?
Okay.
It was inspired by the fact that I have a lot of male friends and I've learned so much from them about dating. And I always
Mhm.
thought to myself, it would be so grand if women could receive this information and almost act as a fly on the wall when this
Mhm.
information is being shared. And
Yeah.
these men were willing to share. So I was
Yeah.
like, let's put it on YouTube. So yeah, I did that with my girl Girdley, who's still a dancer and a great dancer, and she's danced for a bunch of different artists, and my girl Tracy G on Sway in the Morning. So we were
Okay.
doing that.
I know Tracy.
Yes, yeah. So we were doing that, and my roommate said to me, "Why don't you look at being a producer?" And having immigrant parents, I just didn't really think of that as a real career. I just never even thought about. To me, it was just a hobby. And when she said it, like the wheels started turning, and I started looking for a job, and I found one.
What was the job?
My first job was actually at Music Choice.
You're kidding.
Yeah, started
How,
at Music Choice.
so what was that like in terms of getting that job? Because you think of some of these like big name brands or these popular companies and it's like
Hmm.
it seems difficult to get a job at some of these companies because sometimes they're like your wish list companies. Was it
Mm.
difficult for you or did you get it like right away and what was your position?
I came in as a PA.
Mhm.
Did I get the job right away? I mean, to my knowledge, I don't know. I'm sure. Oh no, I feel like they were looking to hire somebody else, but maybe that person didn't accept or something, or maybe that was a
Okay.
previous job. I don't know. But I can tell you, I know a lot of people ask when it comes time to transition careers. What's the strategy on the resume?
Yeah.
And I really looked at the transferable skills. I know, maybe you guys have heard that before, but it's really about that. And what helped me too, if a theme in my life has always been, if someone's not going to give me the opportunity, I'm going to create it for myself.
Yes. Girl after
Yeah.
my own heart. Another person after my own heart.
You
Like if
feel me?
yes, because if it doesn't exist, then you create it yourself. If they don't give you
Yeah.
a seat, you
Yes.
make your own seat at the table, put
Yes,
your own table.
and that's the saying we've been hearing lately, but I get how it can be discouraging to people because like we hear Shonda Rhimes say that, right? And it's like, yeah, but Shonda Rhimes got shows on all these major networks. It's like if I launch the show, it's just going to be like only how many people are going to listen to it initially. It's going to take how long to grow it, but it's not always about that. And I'll say my relationship with God wasn't as strong as it is now. I do realize that I was walking in purpose, and He had something that He wanted to do with that experience. So that show maybe had like on average maybe 1,000 views. You know, if we were
Mm-hmm.
lucky, we got it up to 3,000 views. But the thing about it is, at the end of the day, I was learning through it, right? I didn't know I was being a producer, but that's what I was
Yeah.
doing because I had a team of 15 people that were working with me, whether it was marketing, social media, the production crew. And then in addition to that, it was putting me as a host and producer top of mind in people's minds because the
Yeah.
show is entertaining to watch. They're seeing
Yeah.
it show up on their feeds, you know, so it makes you top of mind. So I really believe that is the purpose that that served. And for my co-host at the time, for Tracy, she had never like radio. Sway in the Morning was the first radio gig that she did. So we have
Wow.
similar stories where it's like we didn't do this stuff before, you
Right.
know.
But I mean,
Like
you
God
said
had a
that you
purpose.
were definitely had a purpose, and it's good that you followed that. Like, you didn't get
Mm,
discouraged that, okay, the dancing isn't going to be working out for me anymore. What do I do with my life? You transitioned well. You went
mm,
into event planning, and I always tease my friend, shout out to Cindy from Darcy Events. She's an event planner, and I'm always just like, our jobs are so similar. But I don't want to ever do event planning. It's just so,
yeah, it's
I
a
mean, the
lot.
logistics, it's just a lot. I mean, we as producers have a lot to deal with as well, like personalities, hiring crew, budget, et cetera, et cetera. But I just feel like event planning comes with too much decor or items that you have to like position places. But
You know
that
what?
is
You
a,
definitely have to have the passion because I'm sure someone would say that for us, like being a producer. It's too
yeah.
much work for me. Let me just be an editor. Let me just be, but we have the passion, so we love it.
We do. So you started off as a PA at Music Choice. Did you move up?
I just want to backtrack really quickly because when it comes to the dancing in that moment that I had, I did move forward. I did have feelings. I was also up in my feelings as well. I felt like I had, of course my parents weren't like, yeah, move to New York to dance. They were just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, whatever. So I was just
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh, they're right. I moved all the way to New York to dance and now I'm not dancing. Like, what a loser. I just didn't sit on it forever because
Right.
like I said, I still had the relationship with God, so I was like, okay, you clearly are doing something here. But I just wanted to make that statement because I'm not
No,
always
I
that confident.
understand. Yeah, I understand that. No, it's good that you shared that. I have a similar story in that I started off as a singer songwriter and I was
Mm.
sure that I was going to make it. I was in a group, then I became a solo artist, and then I was like, God, what you want me to do? Because this ain't working. Prior to that, I had a show called The M Spot where I would feature independent artists in the tri-state area and they would perform their original music and then perform a song on the spot. So the M was for
Oh,
Maureen, the
okay.
spot was like they do an impromptu song because I was like, look, if you call yourself a singer-songwriter, if you call yourself a rapper, you should be able to come up with a song on the spot. So that was the,
Okay.
the premise of the show. And then one day I looked back and I was like, oh, this is what producing is. Because I didn't really like, I'm a visual person.
Mm.
I didn't really like understand or really get producing. And I was like,
You don't
oh,
until you're in it, right? Like you
well,
just
some, I think some people do. Like some people who really know the business and they know the different departments, they get it. But I didn't because I just wasn't even thinking about that at the time. And
hmm
so I always say that I fell into producing and I love it. I love it. I love it. And so my question to you, because you also direct, I have always directed by default. Do you consider yourself more of a producer or director, and which do you prefer?
It's funny on my Instagram I added director, but that is a question I still need to figure out. I know I don't like producing without directing. So,
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
it's necessary in order for you to really
hmm
get whatever you need from talent. It is necessary.
I enjoy being on set and the creative aspect, period, coming up with the concepts, etc. I'm not really down to do any production that doesn't involve the creative aspect of it.
Yeah, same thing with me. Like, I love the creative portion of producing. Like, I consider myself a creative producer, but as far as like having to direct talent, I'd rather stay
Mm.
away from that because I feel like there's such an
Oh.
art to it to really getting and conveying and articulating what it is that you want from the talent and getting them
hmm
to actually to execute that. I think that's kind of hard for me personally.
So I skipped the part where I was doing red carpet interviews at one
Okay.
point. And so being talent in front of the camera, I don't really have an interest to host right now unless
Hmm.
the content makes sense to me and my life and my purpose and whatnot, because I've had that experience in front of the camera. And this is what I was saying about transferable skills, great things to mention. And even to this day, when I'm applying for a job, I mention that, it
Yeah.
makes it easier for me to direct the talent because I understand their experience
Yeah.
from both ends of the camera.
Absolutely. So at Music Choice, you've had Cardi B, DJ Khaled, Selena, Lecrae all come through, Carrie Underwood. What was your interaction with them?
It was different for each artist. Some were just interviews, some
Hmm.
were full out profile pieces, some were like full out specials that we
Okay.
were doing, or concepts that I came up with. Like Cardi B, I think she was on a part of a special too, but then we also, at the time, people were comparing her to Tupac. So we
Okay.
wanted to get her insight on that as well, which
Hmm.
was interesting. But I mean, her statement was great. I mean, it makes sense. It's like, why was people to Tupac? Come on
Yeah, I don't see that at
now.
all, but okay.
Yeah.
Were there any challenges that you faced dealing with some of these celebrities, or was it always like good vibes?
It's so interesting because when people meet me, when they first meet me, if it's not in a setting like this where I'm on, right, I'm usually pretty quiet. And it confuses people so much because they might see me on Instagram or whatnot, or they'll listen to this podcast and it's like, oh, she's, like, what's going on? Some might like mistaken it for, I don't know, a toot or something. When it's time to be on, you really have to play up to your strong points, because for some reason I'm good with like people. But
Yeah.
it's just like I wouldn't call myself a people person, but I know other people would. And this is the moment where I have to just say, this has to be God. That's the only thing that makes sense. But I say that because I don't think I'm the most outgoing person. Like when I meet other people, I usually meet them through someone. Like we said, we can't remember how we met. I probably met you through someone.
I
It's
think
very
we
unlikely that I approached you to be like, hey,
I
just want
mean,
to
cause
introduce
like,
myself.
I have your phone number in my like, when you were like, "I don't know how we met," and I was like, "That's so weird because your number is in my phone." Like, there's
Yeah,
it
that
wouldn't
was crazy. But kind of
yeah,
one of the cool things about living in New York.
it very much is. I think we probably came across you never came to the My Life Offline reunion, right?
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, I don't know how we met. Somebody might may have introduced us because I can't remember
It had to
either.
be. I say that to say, like, most of the experiences with the artists have gone well. I will say there's two difficult moments that are at the top of my mind. There's one where one artist was just like, I mean, he felt like I should have had an understanding of a certain aspect of the Black experience that I didn't. And it was primarily because I'm not from the South. My parents I'm first generation. You get me?
Yeah.
So, like, there's
Yeah.
certain things that I did not pick up in life until much later, including soul food. Like, I never tried soul food to college.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so he was a little offended by that and had a bit of an attitude, which I thought was really unfortunate because I was in a room of like, I was the only Black person. So to do that, us both being the only Black person, it was just like extra. And it was a man on top of
That's what you
that.
call ignorance.
Hmm.
Unfortunate
Yeah.
ignorance. But you seem to have faced a lot of different things at Music Choice because I know that you mentioned women in the workplace not getting along with each other.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. So that's funny. That actually leads to my second artist story. Common issue working in the industry is people looking to mix business and pleasure. With women, we have like a whole movement surrounding it.
Yeah.
And so different people go about it in different ways. I personally like to play dumb until you come straight out and say something, and that's worked really well for me.
Yeah.
So I just honestly, I wish someone shared that advice with me, because when I was interning when I thought I wanted to work in music. I interned at Sony BMG, and I had to deal with a lot of my coworkers or people who were above me while I was interning, trying to mix business pleasure. And it used to stress me out so much to the point where I was just like, I don't want to work in entertainment. And that's when I went into events. When I graduated college, I went into event planning because I was so turned off by the music industry and people just pushing way too hard. Like I had someone pull me and kiss me in front of everybody. That's
What?
embarrassing. Yeah, I've had someone who I thought, we were cool and they were like a mentor. We took the train home together and he got off to walk with me to my dorm, and I just thought he was being nice or something. It was daytime, but he wanted to come up. And then when I
Uh,
shut him down, the next day it's like he don't know me. He didn't know me. So all
Wow.
that work I put in into, like creating this relationship with a quote unquote mentor, because he didn't get any, it was out the door, out the window. But with this artist in particular, he was flirting. It wasn't that type of situation, thankfully, where he pushed too hard, but he was
Mhm.
flirting. Like I said, I was playing dumb. He asked for my Instagram, but that was something that a coworker saw. And so the story that she relayed to the masses was that I was the one,
Really?
flirting and whatnot. Yeah.
Wow.
This is where God is so good, because I was like freaking out, because that is not a reputation for a female to have in this industry.
Nope,
That could
not at
literally
all.
like, yeah, mess with your career. You can't play with those things. It's not, it's almost, no, let me not do that comparison, but it's serious.
I mean, though,
Anyways.
that's why you have to really stand up for yourself and know who you're dealing with and
Mm,
be able to assert yourself in any situation so that essentially you have to define who you are so that
hmm.
people don't define you because then they'll
That's real.
write you off as anything. So
That's
yeah,
real.
the businesses has always been dirty when it comes to men and women. But what were some of the lessons that you learned working at Music Choice?
Well, I'll say one great lesson with that is, I thought it was that specific situation. It's really important to hold tight to your integrity and stick to that, because I'd always presented myself in a professional manner when it came to interacting with male talent and artists.
Yeah.
When it came time for me to have to speak to my director about that, I was ready with receipts. But he was
Yes.
like, I don't need to talk to anybody. I already know how you are. I've never seen you even be flirtatious with anybody.
Good.
So,
Good.
and I was like, praise God.
Yeah.
Seriously, praise
Yeah. So
God.
you already had a reputation that people knew that you're a
Hmm.
professional person. So people saw you as
Yeah.
a professional. I want to just circle back when I asked regarding applying for a position at Music Choice.
Hmm.
You said that it wasn't difficult. So was it, you said that they were potentially going to give somebody else a job, but you came in as a production assistant. So, like, what was the process? Like, people always ask, what your process is. How did you get in? How did you land? Talk to me about
Yeah.
that.
Let me rewind in life back to then. I literally applied online, and I remember at the time my roommate had stressed the importance of applying ASAP as soon as you see something. So I ended up like going to work late that day because I wanted to apply to this job. I'm
Okay.
not
And
saying
you,
for people to do that, but it was just kind of like, you see it, okay, I gotta go. I gotta do it now, do it ASAP
listen, you have to do what you have to do. So you applied on the site or was it LinkedIn?
on a website.
Okay.
So I just applied there. And then what I did, okay, so then I did a search for, I think on LinkedIn, to see who was working in the production department. So I narrowed it down to one of two people who were probably the decision makers, and I emailed them both my cover letter and personalized it to them. And when you can't figure out what the email address is, for those who are listening, it's usually one of several things. It's either Chazeen.Pemberton at blah, 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 C Pemberton at blah blah blah, or Chazeen Pemberton at blah blah blah. Just do all the different renditions and put them all in BCC so you don't look crazy.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and send it out. And I ended up hearing back from them via that. I believe that that's what helped, because when it came time to invite me in for an interview, that's what they responded to, one of those emails.
So
Just
you
apply
went for
online
it.
as well, though, guys. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
sometimes it just feels like I always say, like, it feels like you're applying to a black hole. The last job that I applied
hmm.
to was via LinkedIn, and I was just
Hmm.
kind of shocked that I was like, oh, my resume made it through.
Yeah, it's crazy nowadays. You really have to like, not have to, because you didn't, but it seems like more often than not, like the additional stuff is needed, or like
I
see who
believe
you
so.
know, yeah, that can
I
pass it
agree.
along.
100% agree, definitely. I want to talk about CHAZ Chats. What inspired your CHAZ Chats?
This is why it's so important for the any I don't know if college students listen to this, but to like really invest in building strong relationships in college and just figuring out who your crew is, because Tracy and Girdley, the girls who were part of, What Would a Man Do, have been, and also my really good friends have been throughout my career, looped in through every just about most stories. Just started with a conversation with Tracy. Funny enough, we were just talking about, the interesting things that people do when they're reaching out to us to network, and just all the mistakes that they make. And we're just like, yo, someone needs to like host an event or something to just
Hmm.
tell people like the no's of networking. And I was like, I'm down to do it. You
Give
know,
me 5 no's of networking.
No's of networking.
5 top no's.
I definitely suggest not writing a full 4-page letter in someone's DMs.
Uh-huh.
I'd message them to get their email address and then send them the message there. When you're sending them the message, try to avoid doing a copy paste or just be clear about what it is that you want from
I always
them.
say that.
At the same time, introduce yourself and, hey, hope you're having a great week. But something you can comment on, find something that they recently did,
Mhm.
to really connect with them. Hey, Chazeen, I just saw that you were on Maureen's podcast. It was so good. The note that you mentioned about blah, blah, blah
Yep.
really resonated, and then continue onward, because that's what's going to connect. Because I receive a bunch of emails that just say the same stuff. What's going
Yeah.
to make you stand out?
Yes.
And so I included a bunch of yeses. Just don't flip it and you'll get the no's. But yeah, just silly and when people copy and paste and they of course put the wrong company, that's so bad looking,
Yes.
friends.
Yes. Or the wrong name.
The wrong name, you spell my name incorrectly. It's like, wait, I thought you were reaching out to me.
Right.
It's in my email address. I don't
Right.
understand.
I love that. I feel like people definitely need to you would think that it would be common knowledge, but it really isn't. Sometimes,
No,
especially
it's
for
not.
younger kids just getting out of college, they may not have the experience at all and really
Hmm.
understand, the do's and don'ts. So it's great that you got together with Tracy. What's the other girl's name?
Girdley wasn't a part of this,
Okay.
but I was just saying they've been in different parts. Like the recent CHAZ chats that I did about knowing your rights, Girdley was a part of that. She was
Okay.
someone that I bounced ideas off of and who I was able to speak with to even build up the confidence to host an event that
Yeah.
I honestly didn't think I was articulate enough to talk about. And
Oh
just her
my God. We're
background.
going to get into that. I can't wait to
Oh.
talk about that.
And I will say that it started with one event, and then I was like, oh, there's a need for this. I have a lot of information I really would like to share with people that I feel like a lot of panels are not covering. And
Yeah.
they're not like diving deep and getting real, they're being extremely surfacey with it. And so
Yeah.
that birthed the CHAZ Chats series.
And these were launched with Grow with Google Digital Coaches, correct?
The first one I did was with Samsung and
Okay.
Namic.
Okay.
And then the second one, I believe the second one I did was with Google,
Okay.
digital coaches, yeah.
And
And
how
then
are
I
you
did another
able
one
to
with
do it
Namic
with
Conference.
Samsung and Google?
I was talking with one of my girls about the event, and she happened to work with the events department at Samsung. And so she was like, "Oh, why don't you do it at Samsung?" And I was like, "What? What? Say no more." Okay. And I was busy at the time, so I was just like, I really don't have the time to promote this event. This is the first one, so I don't know. I haven't done events in a while. Are people going
Uh-huh.
to come out, etc.? So I partnered with NAMIC, National Association for Multicultural Communications. Forgive me, guys, but
It's
look up NAMIC.
well, how do you spell it? It's
NAMIC.
Namic. Okay.
Hmm. So yeah, I partnered with them. That was a great experience because they pushed it out to their audience for the benefit for them. In case anyone's wondering, like, how can I get an organization to be down to partner with me? I was coordinating the event. I was planning it. I already found a venue. They basically didn't have to do anything but promote it, and it was
Right.
giving them more events to fill their calendars because that's one of their focus.
Got it. Got it.
So.
And you had some pretty interesting people on your panel. I know you had Tracy. You had Brett Gray, who's on My
Hmm.
Block,
Hmm.
that my
Hmm.
husband happens to be on. And
Oh, really? Wait, who's
yeah,
your husband? Which
Rob,
character?
the coach.
Oh,
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
world.
Small
Wow.
world. How do you know Brett?
So I actually met Brett at Music Choice. Funny enough,
Okay.
he was talent for a show that I was producing,
Okay.
and he's just a great person. So I just really like clicked with him, and I just
Yeah.
kept like sharing little notes with him. I'm like, hey, are you on social? Are you doing this? Like, you need to. I can see you doing your thing and being big. You need to show people your personality. You need to go hard. You need to do this, that, and
Love
third.
it. Yeah, he's so
yeah,
great. That's so
yeah,
great.
yeah. He's just as grand in real life. He's a really
Yeah.
good person,
Yeah,
heart and soul and
absolutely.
spirit.
I always hear good things about him from my husband. So that's cool. And then you had another woman whose name I can't remember, but she's like a travel person.
Tanika, Renee.
Tanika. Yes. How was the panel received afterwards?
It was received very well. The focus of that panel was how to leverage your brand, or leverage social media for your brand. And I wanted to cover like small business. I had a small business representation there. I had Tanika representing influencer. I had Brett representing like like a celeb kind of influencer, and then I had Milk Makeup representing a larger brand. Yeah, and it was received really well. I mean, every time I do these events, I get a lot of great feedback, and it just confirms like I'm walking in that aspect of my purpose.
Yes,
Because it's
I
really God. Like, that was another event I thought about canceling. I don't want that to be the theme of my how
N-
people remember me, but it was just hard
no.
to find. I don't settle when it comes to people. Like, I take events very seriously
Yeah.
because I guess because I started out doing it. And so I really would rather not settle for a whatever panel, because that was my stance, right? The reason why I do CHAZ chats is because I don't want it to be a whatever panel. I want you to leave like, yo, look at all these notes I have. Like,
Right.
I've
Yes.
never gotten this information anywhere. And
Yeah.
so I wasn't finding that initially. And I was like, well, I'd rather just cancel it. But it's with Google. I don't know. So I just prayed, Jesus, please. And then the next day, someone hit me. Two people hit me back. And they were like, yeah, I'll do it. I was like, oh, Jesus, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you,
so when
Lord.
you said you weren't finding your panelists first,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, yeah, look at God. He always comes through. He's just like, walk with me and I'll do your part and I'll do my part.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I love the ideas of Chaz Chats. Do you miss it because we can't gather? We're stuck inside.
Not so much, because I'm working on building my brand right now,
Yeah.
and being able to do it digitally just expands my options for panelists.
That's so true. It's very low overhead.
Yes, girl. Yes.
So, you talk a lot about social media and building your brand. How much time do you spend building your social platform?
I feel like I can't really speak on that right now, just because I haven't developed a system and a practice per se,
Well, that's
you
okay. I
know?
feel like, when I look at your Instagram account, I'm like, wow, this looks amazing. I love the tips that you're doing.
Oh,
It's
thank
so
you.
interesting how from my POV is like, it looks like you're doing it. And then you're like,
Oh,
oh, I
thanks.
haven't really figured it out yet. So, like, it's good to hear what's really happening instead of
That's true.
looking at Instagram and just kind of feeling like, oh, it's perfect and they have it all
Hmm.
together. So, you can share that. I think people want to hear that.
You know what? Thanks for that reminder, because that is very true, and I think people do need to hear that too, just for
Yeah.
those moments when they're feeling discouraged or feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough, and it's like, oh, okay, well, this is the norm. So, for example, like this week, I was like not productive at all when it came to my social, which I was like beating myself up yesterday over. I woke up this morning and did my devotionals, and funny enough, it was talking about being kind to yourself. So,
Mm.
okay, we'll be kind to ourselves. Let me tell you what an ideal week would look like, or yeah, or an
Okay.
ideal day. An
Okay.
ideal day would be, me waking up in the morning, investing 30 to 60 minutes on just interacting
Mhm.
on social media. So whether that be, liking and commenting on people's pages, whether they follow me or they're mutual followers,
Mhm.
or someone I follow as well,
Yeah.
and responding back to my messages, because it takes me a while to do that,
Mhm.
because it can be a lot sometimes. And
So you get a
then
lot of messages then.
I do, but I think it's because I come off that way, like I'm friendly, So like,
Yeah.
even if it's just people commenting, like, and I don't mind it at all,
Yeah.
just as long as people don't take offense to me taking a while, because like by nature I'm more of an introvert, and
Mhm.
so I can't like always sit down and do a bunch of like back and forth conversations with people. Like, I have to take time to myself, and then I
Yeah.
can be on if I
Yeah.
do that, you
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
But yeah, it could be anything from just responses or reactions to things that I posted in stories,
Yeah.
to I don't like actual messages. So it start with that, and then last night what I worked on was pitches. So I figured out what brands. I walked around my house and I was like, okay, it's time to start pitching to other brands, because I want to make some money. Obviously, it's really important for me to only talk about things that I've used or believe in, and so
Yeah.
I kind of just walked around my house to see like what products am I using, what do I believe in, and I made a list of them, and then I DM'd all of the brands, pretty much saying, I wish I had an example up. I say something along the lines of like, introduce myself, a quick note about what I like about the brand, just like I was suggesting people do when they're hitting like up a professional or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I asked them if they can I'd like to reach out and pitch some ideas to your whoever's in charge of brand campaigns. Can you share their email? And I include a link as well to my media kit. Most people usually respond with the email addresses. Most brands do. And so then after that, it involves pitching to the
Mhm.
brands.
Mhm.
So then I sit down, I look at their Instagram page and their website, and I try to figure out, one, are they even working, with other influencers, I'll go to like who's tagged in their stuff,
Yeah.
and I'll see like what's the average, how many followers do these people have, what type of engagement do they have, and if it's much larger than mine, I know it's that much more important that my content be I lead with the content, the type of content that I create
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
I find their pain points, and I pray to God and ask him to come in and collaborate with me to come up with ideas. Like, no lie, that's what I do every time.
I love that. I'm a woman of faith, as you can tell.
Yes.
And it's funny because just recently I started waking up at 4 a.m. with another producer friend of mine about twice a week. And
Hmm.
we go into our Bible app before we start working. And the word was, in everything that you're doing, put God in it. Include
Hmm.
God in everything, in your career and like everything.
Yes.
I think it's so important. I mean, like I always tease and say this is going to be a Christian podcast, but
Hey,
but
I'm here for it.
shoot, listen, if you don't love God, what's wrong with you?
I love
I love
God.
God. No, but I love that you do that. And, you find your strategy, you move with faith, and then I hope afterwards you just let it go. You know what I mean? Like wait for the response, but then don't ponder on it too hard. Like you get it, you get it. If it's meant for you, it's meant for you.
Yeah, I do a combo of the two.
Oh.
I try to let it go.
I love your
I
honesty.
usually, I have to be real. Like, I'm not perfect. It's something that I work towards, but I do. It feels so much better when you let it go. That's for sure.
Yes.
Because you really fully give it up to God. And it's like, if
Yeah.
it doesn't work out the way you envisioned it, you can have full confidence knowing that He's still working it out for your good, but
Right.
it's in a different
It's
direction, or there's a different path.
a different
Yeah, from
package.
what you
Exactly.
exactly.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
I
Clap.
always have great experiences inviting him in to collaborate. I'm always blown away by what I'm able to do when I invite God in to collaborate with me.
Yes. I love
So
it.
yeah, yeah. So I draft up those pictures and then I send them out and we wait,
And we
and
wait.
then we
And
get
we
into
wait.
negotiations and stuff
Great
like that. But
strategy. That is the correct strategy. That's what I do for a lot of my projects too. You have
mm.
two accounts. You have Hey Chazeen and then you have Chazeen the producer. Have you ever thought about consolidating the two?
I'm presently thinking about it. I launched Chazeen the producer initially because I needed like a profile basically to only have producer stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll always gather right from the jump that I'm a producer without reading my bio on the other page. But I
Yeah.
also wanted the freedom to not feel like I have to always include something from what I produced, within the grid, the most recent grid selection. So
Yeah.
it's kind of just a page where people can just go to like get all that information right away. And I use that one for like if I was applying for a staff job, like I would use that, page to link
Yeah.
to it. But yeah, I've been thinking about it lately because when people keep tagging me on Chazing the producer, and I'm like, why? I don't want to be tagged on that page. I'm not my main page, but I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, I understand it too. Like I went through the same thing with my 1218 media page and then I have my personal page which is private. And I'm like, do I
Mm,
want both of these? Do I want to be bothered with both of these? But I do want to separate, the business content from any personal stuff that I feel like posting. If I want to post a picture of a leaves falling from the tree, I may not
yeah,
want to post that on my 1218 media page.
more freedom, right? You feel like
More
you don't have to
freedom.
think as much.
Exactly. Let's talk about some of the projects God puts on your heart to do, like your most recent Do You Know Your Rights? And I know that you
Mm.
said that you did it in doubt. What was the process like for you? How did you make it all come together?
When George Floyd was killed, like a lot of people was just kind of like, okay, what can I do? Like, what can I do? What's my part in all of this? And there was something that God showed me to do. There was like this whole piece that I was supposed to produce, and truth be told, I slacked on it. I really
Hmm.
wish that I had followed through with it as God showed me to. But by the time I did it, I shot it. I never edited it. It was too late. I could feel it in my spirit. It's done. The moment had passed. Not the
Hmm.
moment in terms of the hype
Hmm.
or the attention that the news was giving it. It was like literally the moment. I felt like the spirit was no longer a part of it.
Yeah.
you
I,
know?
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Like when I get a
Yeah.
whisper of like, do it now, and then I don't. And then it's like,
Mhm.
you know what? It's gone. I miss that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. yeah, so that's what happened with that. And, I felt really bad about it. And I was just kind of like, if there's another opportunity, God, let me know. And so I just moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And, this came about. I knew for a while, God had been telling me for a while to like look up my rights, like personally, to
Mm-hmm.
research them, study them. And I'd slacked on that too. But at one point I was like, okay, I really need to like do this. So it was so hard to find them, find like the information that I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the information was repetitive, but I needed a deeper dive. And then I don't know when he gave me the idea, but he did at some point. Oh, this is it. He woke me up at 4 a.m. This is funny enough. Most of the time, when God wakes me up and gives me like an idea or a message of some sort, it's
Listen,
usually
me
right at
too.
4
4
a.m.
a.m. is
Oh, yeah.
must be the magic
What is,
hour.
yeah, what is it about that hour? Like,
I don't know. I think I've heard like on other podcasts or like YouTube videos where they say like that's when you're, I think, most rested and and not in a distracted, like your mind isn't in a
hmm,
distracted place. I guess you're in a state where you can really connect with the higher
okay.
being. I think I remember listening to something like that. So because I can
Okay.
relate to the 4 a.m. time slot.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened a few times in life, but it's always right at that time. It's
Yeah.
crazy, but I literally took out my phone, took out my notes app, and wrote down and like drafted up the whole event right there,
Mhm. Mm.
and then I went back to sleep.
That's him. That's when you know it's him.
That is him.
Mhm.
So I started out on looking for people to speak. I was just looking for civil rights attorneys to
Yeah.
speak, and I that's not my realm, so I don't know them. I realized later I do know civil rights attorneys, but like, you get my point.
Yeah.
So I at some point I know that God was telling me to hit up the folks who are working on the bigger wrongful death suits that we're hearing about. And
Mhm.
I was like, they're busy. Like they're not gonna respond. They're not gonna come on this. I don't even have a major company backing me, and I
Uh-huh.
still felt the conviction to do it. So I was just like, when I feel it so strongly, like it's very clearly God telling me, and the way I know, because I know a lot of people ask, like, well, how do you know it's God telling you? It's because I don't want to do it, but I still feel it. So where is it coming from? It ain't from me, because I
Yeah.
don't
You
want to
got
do
that
it.
conviction.
Exactly. So I did it. Didn't hear back from anybody, and then I felt God say follow up on a Friday at the end of the day, and I'm like, that's such a waste of time. Like everyone's gone on Friday. I'm gonna wait till Monday. Do it today. Do it on
Mm.
Friday. There was two occasions where he told me to hit somebody up on a Friday, and both times
Mhm.
responded, oh yeah, yeah, we'd love to do this. This is great.
See?
And I'm like, what?
That's how it
What?
works. That's how it works.
Yeah. So for background for those listening, the I don't know if I said this already, but the attorneys were Chris Stewart, who is presently working on the Ahmaud Arbery case, George Floyd, had done Walter Scott, Tanaya Pilgrim's case, amongst many others,
Mhm.
and then Mark T. Harris from Ben Crump Law, who pretty much has handled most of the wrongful death suits that we've heard about, Breonna Taylor,
Wow.
all of them,
Wow.
and
So those are
Charles
heavy
Coleman here in New
hitters.
York. Yeah,
Say
very heavy hitters.
I'm sorry, say his name again cuz I interrupted.
Charles Coleman.
Okay.
Yeah, here, who's like on CNN and does a bunch of news segments and whatnot for the
Yeah.
civil rights aspect.
Yeah. That's amazing. And then you pitched it to Complex.
Yeah, so funny enough, with Complex, my boss who hired me at Music Choice is now the VP of, I believe, programming and development at
Mhm.
Complex.
Mhm.
And I literally just hit her up to say happy birthday. And then we started talking about she's like, hey, how's everything with you? I wasn't really going to mention that I left Music Choice. Then I realized I should tell her because she hired me.
Mhm.
So I told her, she's like, oh yeah, can I hire you for any freelance stuff that comes up? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I'd definitely be interested. And I left it at that because I was focused on my brand. So I wasn't really pressed to be working
Yeah.
at that moment.
Yeah.
So she ended up hitting me up and brought me on to do some episodes that they had already figured out what they were going to do for Complex, but one got canned. And
Okay.
so in the shower, that's another place where great ideas come to me.
Me too.
Um, oh, yeah.
Yes.
Look at that.
It's just so
It's
funny how
magical.
it is. Like you sometimes when you think like you're the only one going through something and then somebody's like,
I
yeah,
love
4
those
a.m. the
moments when that
showers.
happens. Yeah.
Me too.
That's so insane. But yeah, I was like, I heard God very clearly say, pitch this to them. And
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my God. But I'm gonna have to be on point, because the discussion I was having for Chat Chats, I wasn't the host for that. I brought
Okay.
on three hosts to do that. I ended up being a host for the New York one because one of our hosts had an emergency and wasn't able to make it. But I
Okay.
wasn't planning to be the host. So now it's like, oh, now the research has to come in everything, and I need to know what I'm talking about even to pitch it. Like, and this is
Right.
where imposter syndrome comes in, because clearly I already pitched it to people who
Right.
are like professionals, and they said yes. So what was I worried about? I don't know.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I pitched it, and first time there was like feedback, like they weren't really feeling it. And
Uh-huh.
then I revised it and I pitched it again, and they were like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great."
So what was the change that you did that, had them on board the second time?
I don't remember the change exactly, but I do remember that due to my, and it's not always just, obviously it's not just about being black, doesn't make you an expert in the Black Lives Matter movement and
Yeah.
even the issues that we're experiencing.
Yeah.
I think that's important for people to know, especially those who aren't black, and then reassurance for those who are black and you don't know everything, you know?
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
was something that I had said that was incorrect.
Mhm.
And I'm glad they caught that, because it would have been a bad look for me.
Okay.
And this is how you know, once again, God's working, because I did restructure the format for the
Mhm.
conversation we were going to have with the event, thanks to that feedback from them.
Okay. And
So
so what
yeah,
did
but I
the
spent the whole
format
weekend working on it.
I mean, but if you think about it, because, you mentioned imposter syndrome and you
Hmm.
mentioned that you weren't even planning to host it because you're like, I'm going to just hand this over to someone that has more expertise. But
Yeah.
in reality, you just had to do the work. You just had to do your
Yeah,
homework and prepare
that is
yourself
real.
because you actually are well equipped to host it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's interesting how sometimes we feel like, oh, there's somebody better and it's like, well, that person is good, yeah, because they may have more experience, but it doesn't mean that you can't prepare yourself and just be, you know, relatable because the thing is, I think like with hosting an important conversation, it also requires you to be vulnerable in the sense that
Mm.
what you're saying is what someone else may be thinking too. Like, yeah, I don't have all the answers. Yes, I'm black and I've had my own personal experiences, but it doesn't mean I know
Hmm.
everything about Black Lives Matter. But here I'm bringing someone who does understand what's happening. So let's talk about that. You were qualified to do it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a good point that I'm gonna tuck away and hold on to, actually. So thank you for
Yeah, God
that.
qualified you.
For sure, for
um,
sure.
so
You know what? And
I
can I tell you one real quick thing about that? How I
yeah,
ended up hosting it. It's
yeah.
funny because I had everyone sign waivers so that I could use the content later.
Hmm.
Um, but I wouldn't have had the freedom that I had to use the content if I hadn't have hosted the New York one. And now it's going to be shown at the Circle of Sisters conference. And they specifically told me they
Yay.
wanted the New York one. Yeah, exactly. And if I had done it with a host that night, I might not have been able to submit that content to them.
Yes. Love
Yeah.
it.
So God knew what he was doing. In
Yes.
a
And
moment where it's like, ah, my host canceled like 30 minutes before. What am I going to do? I didn't even prepare questions. Like, what? You know?
I love it. I love everything that you're doing. I love that you are so open about, what you know and what you don't know. And you're like, look, I'm not perfect. I'm listening. I'm walking on this path and I'm doing the very best that I can. And
Thank
sometimes
you.
I have days where it's great. And sometimes I have days when it's not so great. And I can
Yeah.
relate. And so I love having these conversations with other producers too when I have producers as guests. Because, sometimes I'm like, what am I doing with this project?
Yeah. It's human. We
you
all
know?
think that.
Yeah. And
What's
then
the reassuring part?
it's the reassuring part to know that, somebody else is going through the same thing too. And it's about believing in what you're doing and not giving up the fight and then figuring out what you need to change so that you can get the result that you want. So,
Yeah.
Chazeen, you're doing it.
Why, thank you.
You're doing it.
Thank you, lady. I appreciate it.
This is the part of the interview where I like to do rapid fire questions. So,
Oh,
are you
yes. Bring them
ready?
on.
All
I'm
right.
ready.
All right. All right. So, name three of your favorite apps.
Why am I trying? Oh, wait, I do like Instagram. It's afforded me some opportunities. Someone somewhere is going to judge me, but I really do like the Face app because it helps me to not have to do my makeup. And Maureen, I can share it with you offline. But literally, if your eyebrows are done, you use that app and you got makeup on, and there's your post. And I didn't have to waste an hour doing my makeup.
Okay. I didn't know about that.
Yes, it is awesome. Absolutely worth it. especially for any influencers, content creators out there. And my other favorite app is, I guess I say WhatsApp, because you're able to contact people long distance without,
Yeah,
spending that money.
that's true. That's a good one. Love it. Love it. What's your dream project or dream job?
This is a short term dream, I guess I would say for now. I would love to have a series where I talk to artists about like business strategies behind their brands. I feel
Hmm.
like I don't get to hear that stuff often. And so it'd be really dope to just hear, because it's just like you said, the influencer stuff, you see all the positives, but like what's going on behind the scenes,
Yes,
you
I like
know?
that idea. If you weren't producing, what would you be doing?
Sleeping. No, I'm just playing. Um, what would I be doing? I don't know. I would have moved by now, I think. Like maybe to another country for a little bit. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I don't
No,
have an
that's
answer.
fine. That's fine.
I literally have no clue what I would be doing, which I guess that's good. Maybe that means confirmation. I'm walking my purpose.
All right. Most challenging thing about producing.
All the different moving parts, I
Okay.
would say, and probably dealing with different personalities and stuff
Personalities.
like that for the different
Hmm.
projects and everything.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. You gotta really be level headed and love it. One thing you despise about social media.
it's a time suck.
You ain't ever lie. Where is the
Yeah.
lie?
Yes. Also,
um,
you'll go on there for one thing and then like you're looking at a bunch of other stuff and didn't even check out what you went.
yes. Oh my God, that happens to me. I have to literally talk to myself and say, no, this is not what you came here for. Stay
Same,
focused.
same.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We have so much in common. Whose success story inspires you the most?
Tyler Perry.
What song is on rotation for you?
Won't he do it? Oh, he
Said he would.
promised to do it. Yeah, yeah.
I love her. What book are you reading right now?
I'm not really reading any books right now. I have a long, lengthy list of books to read, but the devotion book I'm on, and everyone keeps asking me about it when I post it in my stories, is What the Bible Says About Managing Stress.
Okay.
It's really, really good. If you know right off the bat it's not gonna work, like just don't waste the person's time or the.
Y'all
I've
hear
reached a
that out
point
there?
where,
Nip it in the
yeah,
bud. Ain't nobody got time.
yeah, I think like sometimes we feel like we don't want to hurt people's feelings, but the moment you know, I feel like it's best to let them know to save them time and save your frustration and you time.
Mm-hmm. 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 Agreed. Your go-to self-care thing to do.
Workout.
Yes. What is your personal why, the reason behind what you love to do?
I want to carry the torch that my parents, they moved here to create a better life for us, right? They did their part, and so it would be really disappointing if at the end of my life all I accomplished is pretty much on the same level of what they did.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to carry on the legacy, make it easier for my kids and the children to come.
Okay. I love that. Lastly, what's your advice for the ultimate way in?
So first and foremost, I would definitely say like collaborate with God in the whole process, involve him in everything. That's number 1. And I'm going to give you number 2, but it can't be done without number 1. Expand, like keep a great network and be kind to everybody.
Those are excellent answers, Chazeen. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. This is a great conversation. We
Yes.
sang.
I
We
know,
related
right?
to our
We
4 a.m.
related
and our
to so many
shower
things.
ideas.
I know. So I want to say thanks to everyone out there listening. Remember, each day you awake is a new chance to pursue your passions. The path
Yes.
may be rocky and you will be challenged, but keep that same persistent energy and be a light in this world because it needs you. I'm Maureen Aladdin. See you in the next pod.